A Herpa Wings model that in Europe at least easily could set you back 80 euros. But is it worth that much? We will find out now. And with that, welcome to a new episode of Review, where we today will take a closer look at an Airbus A350-1000 of Cathay Pacific. The box in the front is fairly basic, but we do of course have the Cathay Pacific branding. Then on the back side of the box, a really lovely rendition of the aircraft, and we have a little bit more information about the aircraft type. And probably the main reason why the design of the box is varying from the standard Herpa Wings box design is simply that these aircraft models are made by Herpa, but specifically for Cathay Pacific for in-flight sales. And before we get started with the review, it is worth mentioning that this aircraft model does come with a stand. And here she is, the Airbus A350-1000 in the current livery of Cathay Pacific. And I must say, the current livery, although it is not changed by much compared to the previous livery of the airline, but I do really think it is a massive improvement. So at the back of the aircraft, we find on the vertical stabilizer the Cathay Pacific branding. On the fuselage, we then have the logo and writing of Swire, which is the parent company of the airline. We also have the aircraft type specification and a little bit of detailing around the APU exhaust. At the top of the fuselage, we then find this lovely little sat dome. I think that looks really nice. Then at the front of the aircraft across the fuselage, we have the writing of Cathay Pacific, and I am happy to report that they have spelled the name of the airline correctly in this case. We do also have the Cathay Pacific logo once again, and the oneworld logo of which Cathay Pacific is a member. Now, the cockpit section is, let's say it, a bit bare-boned. I mean, it is the basic details, although we have the black coloring around the windows. I simply cannot make out if we actually have the window wipers printed on. Now, of course, they would be placed just around that part of the cockpit windows, so they might just be really difficult to make out, but I have really tried everything I could to zoom in as much as possible. I cannot make them out, and if they're not there, honestly speaking, it would be a little bit disappointing. But we do at least have the emergency hatch for the cockpit printed on just above the cockpit windows. The engine nacelles have been given the same color as we have in this stripe that is going along the fuselage. It's a very, very light blue, greenish, more greenish color probably. And we also have the Rolls-Royce logo on them, which is a very nice little touch. If we look at them from the backside, I think that looks rather decent, except that we do have a few small inaccuracies in the paint, but we are being very picky here. And of course, if we look into the engines from the front, we can also see the engine fan blades. And then we should also spend a little bit of time with the wings, because they are actually quite nicely detailed. If we look here at the top side, we can see all the different flaps, slats and spoilers carved out very nicely. We do also have the line marking where to walk on the wing. On the underside of the wing, we have the full registration code of the aircraft once again. And of course, the winglets on the A350 do look very nice. And we do also have the dark green coloring of the airline and the Cathay Pacific logo on the inner side of the winglets. A really nice little touch as well is that we do have the landing lights at the front of the wings, which is a very rare detail for Herpa. Then if we quickly look at the main landing gear here underneath the wings, I think that looks pretty decent. Of course, the 900 version of the A350 has only 2 wheel sets, and there we have the issue of the wheel sets being too far apart. But since the A350-1000 has 3 wheel sets, we don't really have that issue here. Also, the front landing gear, I think, looks really nice, although we could have had a few markings here and there. Unfortunately, that is only something we get with Herpa Wings Club models. And then last but not least, we do also have the doors to the cargo compartments printed on here in the backside of the aircraft and here at the front of the aircraft. So there we have it, the Airbus A350-1000 in the current livery of Cathay Pacific. So the main question is, of course, is this aircraft model really worth 80 euros, which is what this aircraft most likely will cost you if you buy it in Europe? Well, let's see. I mean, the print quality is pretty good. In fact, it is really good. The physical details are also great. But none of these things are better than a standard model from Herpa Wings of any other airline. So it doesn't really set itself apart there. So then it's of course down to the fact that this is the only model of a Cathay Pacific A350-1000 scale 500 that you can get on the market. And as long as Herpa is only able to sell these aircraft models directly to the airline in Asia, which means we have to re-import these models if we want to have them in Europe, I guess that's just the price you will have to pay. But if you are willing to pay that much for one single model, it's really up to you. Me, I'm always struggling with this, and that's probably also why I have really only bought one other Cathay Pacific model so far, because I just find the price to be unreasonable. I understand why the price is like that in Europe, because whoever is selling this aircraft model in Europe would have to have bought this aircraft model for a standard price in Asia, import it, pay taxes, and of course shipping, also having to earn a little bit on it and then selling it to you. But 80 euros, it's just a bit much. Now with that we have reached the end of today's episode. If you have enjoyed this video, then don't forget to smash the like button. That really does help out the channel, and of course if you are new around here, you are most welcome to hit subscribe. That way you won't miss out on any future videos. With that, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.